My name is Jeff Josephson, developer of the Lead Generator. If you're like most business owners, or if you're in sales or marketing, you're constantly trying to find new ways to grow your business. And you're always out there looking for new customers, trying to find new markets, and striving for success, if not just survival, in what's still a very challenging economy. Of course, you have other concerns, such as saving money and time and getting the most bang for your buck. And I'll talk about how we can help in these areas in a moment. But these days, for many in business, it's all about where am I going to find my next sale. Before I get into how the lead generator works, though, let's take a minute to talk about the problem. For most companies, sales and marketing are incredibly expensive, and risky for that matter, with most of the cost, effort, and time going towards making potential customers aware that you exist and getting them to be interested in your products or finding people who need your company's products or services. Whether you're a retailer who has to pay for advertising and signage, or a B2B rep who spends his days networking or banging on the phones, for many businesses, marketing is expensive, time-consuming, and often ineffective, regardless of the media. The problem is that if you can't find new customers, you can go out of business. A business, any enterprise, has to keep growing or it's going to die. Competitors are going to take away your customers, rising costs will squeeze your profitability, and even if you're successful, the simple demands of running a profitable business will make growth a continuing imperative. At the Lead Generator, though, we believe that marketing doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be painful, time-consuming, or ineffective either. In fact, at the Lead Generator, we believe that you already have the key to your success. You only just need the right tool to unlock it. The question is, what if you had access to a database that told you what people needed, when they needed it? In other words, let's say you're selling health insurance. What if you had a database that told you precisely when a particular company was in the market for a new plan and wanted to talk to a new broker? What would that mean to you? Or say you sell website development. What if you had a way to know exactly who was looking for a new website and that they wanted someone to call? How would that help? Certainly, if you had such information, you'd probably drop everything you're doing and contact the prospect. So it seems like this kind of information would be pretty valuable. Or let's say you're a retailer. What if you, say, sold appliances? What would it mean to you to know that someone in your town was in the market for a new refrigerator and all you had to do was a quick search online to find them? Or if you were a real estate agent, what if you knew that someone wanted to buy or sell a house in your area and all you had to do to reach them was click a button? How much time, effort, and money would that save you? If you understand marketing, then you know that effective marketing is ultimately a matter of having good information. Ideally, you would know who needs your company's products or services, either explicitly or implicitly, when they needed it, and get access to them without having to jump through hoops. In the absence of good information, we have what's referred to as waste in our marketing programs. We advertise to people who don't need our products. We send direct mail to people who round file it. We call people who turn out not to have an application. We network with people who can't possibly help. Or we develop elaborate promotions to draw lots of people in and hope to win some kind of numbers game. Setting aside the cost of the promotion itself, one of the major reasons that marketing is so expensive is because of this waste. You pay for exposures that you don't need, you call people who aren't interested, and you pitch to people who can't buy, wasting time, money, and effort. On top of this, you have to fight off competitors who are constantly driving down prices, which reduces the amount of money you have available for marketing, creating a classic vicious cycle. That's why having good information about who specifically needs your company's products or services is so important to minimize waste in your marketing programs and maximize your ROI. But since good information simply isn't available, we're driven to buy email address lists even if a good list doesn't exist, and even in the face of spam blockers. It's why we try to run our ads in media with the best coverage, but then of course, because it has the best coverage, we can't afford it. And it's why we turn to things like consultants or social media, because nothing else, including consultants and social media, by the way, seems to work. I mean, how much time do you have to spend promoting yourself on social media sites before you realize that the only people you meet there are there to do exactly the same thing, promote themselves to you? The fact is that marketing and sales are a tremendous challenge because it's hard to find prospects who need your company's products or services and who want to talk with you about how you can help. They're out there, you know that, or at least you believe it, but you just don't have an easy or affordable way to find them. I suppose that maybe you could do some market research, but that turns out to be even more expensive, And of course, that just reinforces the fact that effective marketing is really, again, just an information problem. The bottom line is, if you knew who needed your company's products or services, and if you could get access to them, there wouldn't be a problem. Of course, you can't wave a magic wand and buy a list of qualified and ready prospects, can you? It's just not available, is it? Until now. Now, the lead generator can do a lot more. One of the major reasons why we built the lead generator is to provide business owners, sales, and marketing professionals like you with highly qualified sales leads, access to decision makers who specifically need your company's products or services and want to talk with you about how you can help. The question is, if you had qualified leads like that, access to decision makers who need your company's products and services, what would that mean to you? For most companies, that would solve their fundamental marketing problem. It would dramatically reduce waste, it would save you time and money, and virtually eliminate the risk. Okay, so how does the lead generator work? As I mentioned before, effective marketing is really just an information problem. That is, how do you get access to information on what other people need? Of course, you know what you need, you just don't know what anyone else needs. And you especially don't know who specifically has a need, either implicitly or explicitly, for the products and services you're trying to sell. But if you did, of course, that would solve the problem. The way the lead generator works is, it asks a very simple question. Would you be willing to tell other people what you needed in order to find out what they needed? Assuming that somewhere in there were people who needed your products and services. You know, there's a funny thing that business people do, maybe even you, that I just don't understand. Now, for those of you who don't get involved in this, bear with me, but you'll get the point. All over the world, every day, salespeople stand up in a room somewhere full of other salespeople in what are referred to as networking meetings and give what they call their 30-second commercial. Some people call it their elevator pitch. This is where they introduce themselves and give a brief spiel about who they are and what they do. The idea is that if there's someone in the room who has a need, they'll identify themselves and come up after the meeting and want to talk. This is also how most online networking and social media sites work too, by the way. Now think about that. If you're in the audience and someone stands up and tells you that they, say, sell printers, what are the chances that you're going to respond? You probably already have a perfectly good printer which you don't expect to replace for a while. And if you did, you'd probably shop online. And the fact of the matter is that you're not there to buy a printer. You're there to promote your own business. So this 30-second commercial has not only wasted your time, but it also wasted the person's time who gave it. Of course, the sponsor of the networking event will tell you that you need to keep coming back and giving your 30-second commercial over and over again until someone responds who needs your product. For the printer guy, they'll tell him he needs to keep repeating his pitch until a prospect is ready to respond. And of course, they'll tell both of you that you should also use this time to develop relationships and build credibility, because that's how business is really done. And they may even ask you to do a little homework, like finding referrals for other members. But the fact is, you're talking about a tremendous amount of time, expense, and wasted effort, assuming that anything ever comes of it. But what if, instead of standing up and giving his 30-second commercial for his printers, that salesman stood up and told everyone that he was looking for a new car, assuming that it was true? What would that mean to any car dealers in the room? Do you think they'd jump? Wouldn't they consider the meeting to be time well spent? The fact is that it would be a great lead for them. And all he had to do was talk about a need that he had, instead of giving his 30-second commercial. That is, if you stand up in a room and talk about what you do, nothing happens. But if you talk about what you need, someone gets a lead. Funny thing about that. Now let's think about what happens with 30 people in the room. 30 people in a networking meeting, each giving their 30-second commercials for their individual products or services, is easily going to kill 2 hours. And maybe 2 or 3 people, or 5%, are going to walk away with leads. Maybe. On the other hand, let's say you put 30 people in a room, and each one stood up and told the audience about something they needed, something they were in the market for, they were considering or ready to buy. What percent of the people do you think would get a lead then? It turns out that we've done this experiment. It turns out that if 30 people in a networking meeting each declare one need that they have, about half, 15, will walk away with a good lead. If you have 50 people in a room, over 90% of them will get a qualified sales lead. A worthwhile opportunity right then and there. Okay, so what does this have to do with anything? Well, first, it certainly didn't cost the printer salesman any more to declare that he had a need for a new car than it would have cost him to give his 30-second commercial about his printers. So the investment is the same. But depending upon the number of people in the room, the chance that he's going to leave the meeting with some real business opportunities is going to soar from maybe 5% to as much as 50% or even 90% or more. That is, if you talk about what you need instead of what you're selling, a whole lot more useful information comes out of the meeting, and a whole lot more and better leads get generated. And that's the point. It's all about the content of the conversation. It's all about the type of information that you put on the table, and that the way to find people who have a need is ask them to talk about what they need. That is, if you talk about what you do, I frankly don't care. But if you talk about what you need, I'm going to listen, because it might be for something I'm selling, because that's why I'm there. Now I'm going to tell you, of course, in a moment, that that's the way the lead generator works, that you have to put your needs into the database in order to see what other people need. But hopefully you'll agree that a system where people declare their needs is a whole lot more useful than one where they simply talked about what they did. Well, that's precisely how the lead generator works. You have to put into the system what you need in order to be able to see what other people need. But that's where the sales leads are. That's where the value is. But let's talk about what an online approach can do for a process like this, because driving to a networking meeting is still very expensive. Assuming that people were willing to declare their needs, if people posted their needs to an online database, you could access it anytime you wanted, and you wouldn't have to go to some networking meeting and eat rubber chicken for $15 a throw. You also wouldn't be limited by distance or by the number of attendees. The internet gives you the ability to do this locally, regionally, or worldwide if that's your market. Do you see where this is taking us? The lead generator gives you access to a population of buyers, including you because you have needs too, which includes people who need your company's products and services, the very definition of a qualified lead. When you consider joining the lead generator, you may at first though be concerned that you don't have any needs. Or you might say, I'm not here to buy anything, I'm here to sell something, which we'll get to in a moment. But let's consider something. First, let's think about you as a consumer, and then we'll talk about your business. As a consumer, isn't that the very definition of someone who has needs? You consume. You buy groceries, newspapers, gasoline, medicine, clothing, insurance, housing, landscaping, tax preparation, car repairs, utilities, mortgages, furniture, tools, entertainment, and 1,000 other things every month. Don't you think that the people who sell those things would be interested in knowing that you needed them? Of course they would. And in fact, they might be so interested in getting access to that information that they might even be willing to put their own needs into the system in order to get at it. But as a consumer, let's assume that you declared your needs. What would it do for you to post them into a database? Well, what would it mean to you to have multiple vendors competing for your business on the basis of price, service, and quality? If you're like most buyers, it means you would be able to get more and better for less. Not bad. So now let's talk about your business. Does it have needs? Of course it does. Just take a look at your accounts payable ledger. If yours is like most businesses, you pay rent or a mortgage, and you buy office supplies, of course, but you also probably buy internet service, insurance, utilities, raw materials, legal services, accounting, advertising, office furniture, car leases, lunches at restaurants, hotel rooms when you travel, computers, trade show booths, labor, and dozens of other products and services. It turns out, if you're profitable, you buy almost as much as you sell. And if you're unprofitable, you buy even more than you sell. And everything you buy is the result of a need that you have. So again, what would it mean to you as a business that if you declared your company's needs, you'd be able to find multiple vendors to compete for your business on the basis of price, service, and quality? And more importantly, what if by doing so, you could get access to a database that contained everyone else's needs, including people who needed your company's products or services? That's what the lead generator does. If you declare or post your needs, and you can do this as a consumer or as a business, you can get access to the database, which contains other users' needs. Obviously, the more users there are, the more leads there are, which is why we'd like you to tell your friends about it. But the lead generator does something that no other system does. It provides you with truly qualified sales leads, which you can get by leveraging your buying power. You get what you want, more sales, and you save money and time in the process. It lets you trade something that has a negligible cost to you, information on what you need, to acquire something that would otherwise be prohibitively expensive, information on who needs your company's products and services. So I invite you to join, and I invite you to let your friends know about it too, because the more users there are, the more leads there are for you. But if you need to grow your business, the lead generator is the solution. Thanks, and good selling.